Maybe it's also because Sunday was, I think, a reminder that it's going to be a long process with the Carolina Panthers. It was over early in New Orleans. It might have been over on the first first Panthers play from scrimmage when Bryce Young either overthrew Deontay Johnson or underthrew Adam Thielen. Take your pick. And it was an interception, and that just set everything back. Vashti Hurt was there. CarolinaBlitz.com, at Keep Blitzing on Twitter. That was, I'm not going to say it wasn't worth going to New Orleans for, but what was it unraveled quickly, did it not?
Yeah, it wasn't worth going to New Orleans for. I'm perfectly fine with saying that. I'm not a fan of New Orleans in the first place. I felt obligated to go. The only good thing was I was able to do the trip in a day. I flew in that morning, went straight to the stadium, and was able to leave on the 6:30 flight out. But, yeah, it unraveled quickly. I mean, you know, when your opponent comes out and scores and then your offense throws an interception on the first play, that's pretty bad. And in my opinion, when your team comes out that badly, I don't even put it on the players. That's on your coaching staff, period.
Could they, I was going to get to that last, but let's just start there. Could Dave Canales have done something different within the game? I know on Monday, my question was, if you're going to be a running team, why not start the game backing that up?
Adam, I asked him that question, and I mean, the answer was what it was, but you said that you're going to play to the strengths of your offensive line, which is running the ball. You are going to run the ball ad nauseum. Even if it's not working, you're going to stay committed to the run. And your first play call is a pass. I did not understand it. It felt like the football gods trying to shake him and wake him up and get it together, and it just did not work. I will never understand why he tried or why he decided to go with that out of the gate. And then he did not commit to the run. I think they ran, between Chuba and Miles Sanders, who are, of course, running RB1 and 2, maybe 11 carries combined.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in garbage time, Boone got some. But, you know, that's not acceptable, and it doesn't match what you said all off season.
Yeah, and just to drill down on the play calling, because I thought they should have started the game running too, and I understand that Johnson and Thielen were both open, and it's a throw that Bryce Young needs to hit. So there's a physical mistake there. But after that play, after the Saints make it 10, right, because they kicked the field goal on that drive, they didn't score a touchdown. You start the next drive and you run twice, 4 yards, 7 yards. Why is the next play a drop back where Bryce Young is scrambling? Like, you've just done something nice. Why not run it until you can't run it? And again, that speaks to what we all thought this philosophy was going to be, what we were told. I don't think it's. How much of this do you think is maybe Canales trying to be too smart? I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but it's frustrating.
He said that, Adam. He said that, you know, with the first week, with there being limited tape, with the Saints having a new offensive coordinator, with the Panthers having a whole new offensive staff, that the guy basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but the offense or the coaching staff that had more tricks up their sleeves, that would be the coaching staff that would win. And he looked forward to being that coaching staff. So maybe he was too cute with it. Maybe he overthought it too much. I don't know, but I'm sure the self-evaluation process for him, number one, had to been sobering. And this week, and I hate to put a must-win on week 2, but after that performance during week 1, like, this week has to be leaps and bounds better. Right. It has to be.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and I said this before the season started, Vashti Hurt, CarolinaBlitz.com is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. I don't care what the record is. And again, I keep saying this, so I want people to understand. I don't have an emotional investment. I'm not looking at this as a fan. I'm looking at this as somebody who is acting on behalf of fans. I am advocating for them. I don't care what the record is. This team is not going to be a playoff team. But what I want to see is some advancement in the offensive execution and performance. So I don't care if they lose to the Chargers 34-27. If the offense looks good enough to say, all right, that's fine, then I will be okay with that regardless of the outcome. And my fear is that maybe playing Bryce Young last year has set him back further, making this almost a year zero, not year one, because he looks like skittish, jumpy, nervous in the pocket. It just looks like the game is flying for him as opposed to slowing down.
And that's another reason why I did not like that first play. I mean, Bryce Young did not get many preseason reps, which completely made me rethink the preseason. And, we talked about it, and I was like, it's just the preseason. Mm-hmm. No, play these guys in the preseason. I have a newfound respect for the preseason because, I'm assuming that if they'd gotten more snaps in the preseason, they wouldn't have looked so disjointed on Sunday. But that's another reason why I didn't like that first play. Let Bryce kind of get a feel for things, Run the ball. If you want him to pass the ball, make it a simple screen. That's something that he cannot mess up. Just so he can kind of get in a rhythm, kind of get his feet wet. You just don't throw somebody into the fire. You don't go swim a mile without warming up first or stretching. So Bryce wasn't able to stretch, and you wanted him to go out and go full steam on the first play. That's why I just thought it was just a bad job by Dave Canales.
Yeah, there are two other elements, and these don't necessarily have to have anything to do with football. I just wonder, even though it's only the first game of this season, it's the second year for Bryce, it's the first year for Dave Canales. We had great meetings today, which Coach Canales said yesterday. I just wonder how long we can go with that kind of, it's not fake optimism, it's optimism. But, I mean, you're speaking to fans. Fans don't want to hear about great meetings. They want to hear how we're going to fix it. I just wonder how long that stuff can last. And Bryce really can't explain any of it because right now, I think, again, he's confused why it's not going well. I just wonder how long that kind of stuff can last.
Well, if he's true to it, if that's his demeanor, if that's how he carries himself, then he's going to have to ride with it. You can't pretend. And from all accounts of what I've heard from Dave Canales, whether they're winning or losing, he's the same guy. So, but I do also, to your point, think that fans would like to hear that you're upset. That you. You understand what you put on the field was unacceptable and show some passion around it amidst the positivity. So I get that. I'm just concerned. I don't know how, as a new coach, you pour into Bryce. That's tough, and it continues to get worse. His eyes looked empty to me on the sideline. He looked shell-shocked. Almost those I was seeing ghost type moments that we heard.
We all thought the same thing. We all had Sam Darnold moments.
It was crazy. And this is where you have a guy like Jim Caldwell, who's on your staff, who has been there, who has experience. This is where you turn to him. And I hope that Canales is doing that. And I wonder how much you're utilizing him as a resource. But you got to get Bryce right first, because his team is only going to go as far as him. And the look in his eyes on Sunday, and even in that post game, at that podium, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign at all.
I think if the game slows down, I think we'll see a different Bryce in terms of talking to you guys. And by the way, two things I want people to know. One, I jumped on your spaces at halftime. It was, you guys do a great job with that. I jumped on the Twitter space at halftime just to listen. I was just kind of a voyeur. It was fantastic. And you get your questions to players and coaches are just all so, it's exactly what fans want to hear. What other concerns do you have? I know defense obviously didn't look good, but what other concerns did you have coming out of that game against the Saints?
You just said it. Defense. That was supposed to be the stable part of this team, despite losing all of those pieces. And I've been asking questions about this pass rush all off season, basically. And the answers have been somebody has to step up, And if you don't have anybody by the beginning of the season, you have to find somebody who you think is going to be able to do the job if it's not in your locker room. And I'm not saying go out and pay a whole lot of money for a guy, but if it's not in the locker room, then you got to find out where it is. And it's not in that locker room right now. And to have the Saints and Derek Carr hang up 47 points on you, 47 points, that's embarrassing for a Panthers defense for the past few years that's been the bright spot. And, it was clear regression and, miscommunication as far as, that first play or that first series where JC got burnt. There was no help over the top by Jordan Fuller. Miscommunication there. Could that have been helped in the preseason? Usually Evero, despite arguably a lack of talent, has exceeded expectations. He didn't do so this past Sunday, and a matter of fact, he wasn't even close to meeting the expectations that people have for this defense. So they have to find answers on both sides of the ball, which is why, if it falls off the rails this Sunday, I really don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know, Adam. I don't know.
And that is actually the perfect answer. Charles Harris, by the way, was added as a pass rusher, but that's not a replacement for Derek Brown, arguably their best player and clearly their best defensive player. I know J.C. Horn was victimized on the first touchdown pass, but I think he obviously thought he had some help over the top, which he didn't have. Maybe playing together during the preseason a little bit might have worked some of those kinks out, but I know in college we talk about improvement week 1 to week 2. We got to see it. Vashti, I appreciate your time. At Keep Blitzin', also at Ms. Carolina Blitz, if you need her, on Twitter. The Spaces at halftime was just very entertaining. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
You got it. Vashti Hurt.